So to just kind of do a rundown of things for those of you who are just now tuning in, Blake News, the whole principle behind it, I saw something in our media that was missing, right? And so what I saw missing was basically a gap in which people, there are a lot of shows where people can call in, but there aren't a lot of shows where people can call in and say exactly what they want to say in a very uncensored and unedited fashion. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here is to just get the word out there. I want to be able to talk to people and see what their thoughts are on different things. Whether it be we're going to be talking about a huge variety of topics. So there are a couple different segments I'm looking into that I really want to go forward with and such. So yeah, it's going to be a good time. Also, I'm going to be opening the lines here very shortly, so I look forward to your calls and such. I will be posting the number, so that way people can call in, and I'll be answering, and you'll be live on the air. And anything is fair game. You don't even necessarily have to talk about whatever it is we talk about for that particular episode. It can be about, it's fair game. Whatever's on your mind is fair game for Blake News, and we'll talk about it in front of the whole audience. It'll be a good time. All right. So, let me get the number here. Now, granted, I haven't ironed out the whole I haven't set it up to where I put the number up on the screen just quite yet, so I'll just be telling you what the number is for now, and we'll get callers on the line here shortly. So, I know the show is called Blake News, but as far as the whole news aspect, it doesn't have to be just about news. It can be about literally anything. So that's a pretty big deal because you can call in and say literally anything you want, not pertaining to news. I've told people before that you can call in and tell me, oh Blake, why are you such a pussy? And I'll be like, oh well, I don't know, man. Why do you feel like I'm a pussy? And we'll have a good time and we'll kind of go into that as well. So and such. So let me go ahead and see if I can get this situated. Alright, looks like we've got a few viewers on Twitch as well as Facebook Live at the moment. I should pull up the YouTube one as well. We are on YouTube also. I haven't set up the custom URL yet. So it's just a matter of having the direct link. I'll be putting the direct YouTube link in the Facebook chat here for anyone who finds YouTube to be more accessible. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up the number, and if there's anything on your mind, don't hesitate to call and we'll talk about it live on the air. So the number, and I'll be putting this in all the chats as well, is 937-660-8483. It is. Up and going. There we are. Alrighty. Now, one thing I wanted to kind of brush up on is lately we've been having all of these mass shootings, whether it was at that synagogue in Pennsylvania or in California and such. And what I find interesting, and I'm just saying here, I'm not personally a conspiracy theorist, but there is a point to have in which. Oh, we got a caller. Oh. Sorry, caller. You'll have to try again. I accidentally declined the call. So if you'll just go ahead and call in again for me, that'd be ideal. Now, again, too, for those of you who may not be, brave enough to actually call in, you can actually just type out your question as well if you feel so inclined. I am paying attention to all the chat channels, and so I definitely be willing to talk about anything or answer anything that you might post in the chat as well. So let me see if I can. Hello, caller. You're live online at Blake News. What's on your mind?
So, with the recent events with the last polls, what is your stance on it?
Oh, the poll. What polls exactly?
The issue for letting drug users get off the hook.
Oh, yes. So that was actually that was in our voting, if I'm not mistaken, when we went to vote on Tuesday. We voted on the issue as to whether or not possessing drugs should be more lenient. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, personally, I voted no on that one. And I know a lot of people aren't willing to share what they voted, for whatever reason they feel like, it's a personal thing as to whether or not, as to where their votes go and such. But I voted no, just because of the fact that I don't want people to feel like that harming themselves is okay, I suppose, to some extent, like the whole drug epidemic, or that like people can get away with doing these things to themselves. And if certain drugs were made legal, I feel like a lot of people would revert to it because of there's a depression epidemic as well, and they would revert to these things, and everyone would turn into like a zombie essentially. And so that's not something that really sits well with me. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It's kind of a yes, because I'm like, well, what if it's like just a minor offense, like they're just having a rough time, and that's just their go. They just happen to slip into it. Like, should they ruin their life because they had a rough time and made a poor decision?
Yeah, definitely, and that's a really good point. But we've also got to consider there does come a point too where there crosses a line where there's expense associated with our tax dollars as well, like as far as Narcan goes. So and there are multiple people who do this, multiple times, and they keep needing the Narcan, and these people who inject the Narcan into them and to revive them and such, and we're paying for that. And so, as far as the costs associated with Narcan and or putting someone in jail, I don't know the exact numbers on that. But I feel like as far as rehabilitation goes, it's better to try to rehabilitate rather than to just put a Band-Aid on the problem and say, oh, well, here you go, you're revived, no big deal, and such.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yep, great having your call. I hope you call in again soon. Thanks for, and remember, it's not fake news, it's Blake News.
All right.
What a lovely call. And so don't forget, the lines are still open for anyone else who might want to call in. I'll say the phone number again for those who may not be able to have vision of the chat. The phone number is 937-660-8483. feel free to call in, and anything that's on your mind is fair game for Blake News. And remember, it's not fake news; it's Blake News. All right. We try to keep the fake news to the minimum, and when we reference fake news, we mean things that aren't maybe necessarily entirely credible. You have all these anonymous sources in the news lately, and it's like one of those things where if you're not willing to put yourself out there and put yourself out there with what you have to say, then that just deteriorates the credibility of anything you do have to say. And that's also a huge reason as to why I'm kind of putting myself out there, is because I'm trying to be the opposite of fake news, like a lot of what we've been experiencing lately in the world. So, fun stuff. So I've really got to figure out how to get the number up here so as everyone can see it actually on the screen. Again, that number is 937-660-8483. I'm talking to anyone about anything and everything live here on the air on Blake News, so feel free to give us a call. As I was talking about before, the caller had called in to ask about the voting we recently had. I was talking about all the recent mass shootings. So with these mass shootings, for those of you who are old enough, and I'm not quite old enough, but I've seen footage, back during Desert Storm, they would actually show, we have a caller. Hello, caller, you're live on the air with Blake News. What's on your mind?
Hey, Blake, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, pretty well, and yourself?
It's a pretty good day. Got done with all my work. Feeling good. Got free time.
Yeah, I agree. Although it is rather cold. So what's on your mind?
I agree. I was wondering what your stance on offering birth control was for free.
Offering birth control for free, like in our healthcare program
Mm-hmm.
and such. So as far as that goes, my stance on it is essentially within, we kind of talked about this in the last call as well, pertaining to tax dollars. When it comes to our tax dollars, I feel like we should not necessarily be paying for people to have sex. And, that's just how I feel about it, we would be essentially paying for people to have sex. And granted, there are people who take these preventative measures so as to, keep from becoming impregnated and such. And, it could just come down to a case-by-case basis, but ultimately I feel like, I don't want to be a pimp, essentially. Like, I don't want to pay for people to have sex, is what it comes down to. So, what are your thoughts on it? And is there anything you might disagree with what I said?
No, I completely agree that it is a totally valid viewpoint to not want to be a sponsor to something that people may or may not disagree with. And it should be up to the individual to decide whether or not they would want to pay to support that. Is that a fair summary of your position?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Great. So the two things that I would add, firstly, and I don't want to, I hate playing gotcha games with like, do you have any studies? So I'll present a hypothetical if something were to exist to support this. So if something were to, the following two things, to my knowledge, both currently exist. The first one is scientific studies that demonstrate how even when teens have increased access to birth control, alongside increased access to sexual education, that the rates at which they have sex don't actually increase. So that's number one. And then number two is when a taxpayer pays for birth control, that they are actually, so this is the concept of enlightened self-interest, where by paying for birth control for other people, they are saving themselves money in the long term because, of course, availability to birth control time and time again has been demonstrated to reduce the number of pregnancies. Moreover, it disproportionately reduces number of pregnancies for poorer populations. So specifically reduces the number of pregnancies among the population that would have to be supported by systems within the government, therefore costing that taxpayer more money. So it would actually be a cost-effective investment. Those 2 points in tandem would suggest that paying for birth control both saves the taxpayer money and also doesn't increase the rate at which people have sex. So because I don't want to play that gotcha game, if those 2 pieces of information were to be true, would your opinion still stand on this topic?
I think it still would to some degree, because then it comes down to the individual, in their viewpoint, as far as like, is life sacred to you? Is it one of those things where are you willing to, whether it be for religious principles or biological principles or just moral principles or otherwise, is it one of those things where it just doesn't sit right with you? And like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a religious thing. So yeah, those are all very valid points that I would agree with. And like I said, maybe if we could come up with some kind of system in which it's a case by case basis. I'm not sure exactly how that would work out or whatever, but no, that's good substance. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all. It just seems like the alternative is, I wish people would just be better and have less unplanned pregnancies.
Right, yeah. And I feel like this is one of those issues amongst many others in which there isn't a definitive solution or answer, unfortunately. So it might be, depending on the demographics for any given region, as far as what the stats are behind pregnancies and such. So it's tough stuff as far as deciding on.
I will say that I heavily disagree with that statement, because in terms of reducing numbers of unwanted pregnancies, there is an incredibly well-documented solution. So I disagree with the sentiment that there is no clear solution to reducing numbers of unwanted pregnancies, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, that's great. If you want to go ahead and post it in the chat, I'd be happy to, we'd all be happy to have a look at it and check it out and everything. I do have my thing set up to where I can show my screen to the audience, and it's something we could definitely check out, and look at these proven things that are out there.
Great. I heavily recommend that you stand closer to your mic, because that will drastically improve your sound quality. Good luck, Blake.
Appreciate it. Have a good one. Thanks, caller.
You too.
Alrighty, good stuff. Alright, so this should be a little better. Here, a little closer to the mic. Alright, so yeah, good substance, and hopefully, and just so I can, hopefully with future callers, now you are allowed to stay anonymous if you so choose, but I would definitely like to know at least what your first name is, just so I can, properly refer to you as such. But if you want to stay anonymous, it's not a big deal. That's fine too. So yeah, good conversation. So back to what I was talking about before. And by the way, let me unlock the lines here, because anytime we're in a call, I lock the lines. But now that we're no longer in a phone call, the lines are now free to go again. We're able to take a phone call. Again, the number is 937-660-8483. Anyone is more than welcome to give a call, and anything that's on your mind is fair game for Blake News. And we're not fake news, we're Blake News. All right. So back to what we were talking about before with the mass shootings. Back during Desert Storm, if anyone remembers, they would actually show bodies of people, of dead people, footage of all this stuff. And what I find unusual with all these recent mass shootings is, why not show the bodies of all these mass shootings, so as just for the sake of maybe discrediting anyone or everyone that may be in doubt of all these all things that might be staged or what have you. So, and granted, it might be a far off thing to have out there, but it's still something, and I still think it's something that's worth dispelling, just to be able to have definitive proof that it did happen, because anything can be paid. Anyone can be paid to say anything. This includes actors. You can have actors who pose as parents or what have you. So there's a lot of controversy behind Sandy Hook, for example. A lot of people don't think that happened because there's actual footage of one of the kids' dads who, before he went up to speak about what happened, he was like laughing and having a good time with other people before he went up to speak and started crying. And I don't know, I just feel like as someone who's a parent, I'm not a parent, but as someone who's a parent, you'd be very grief stricken from the loss of your son or daughter at school. So I just feel as though maybe someone under that circumstance shouldn't even be capable of laughing for I don't know, maybe some amount of time or what have you. So anyone's definitely welcome to call in to things pertaining to that as well. Alrighty. And again, since I don't have the number up, I'll give that as well. Once more, that's 937-660-8483. Hopefully, the last caller's advice, hopefully the audio quality is a little bit better right now and such. So as far as what we were talking about in the last call, the whole contraception things and such. So as we know, actually a majority of the population is religious. For example, Christianity in itself is about 1/3 of the Earth's population. And so that's a big thing to consider, because, if that 1/3 of the population preaches what their doctrine teaches, then they should definitely be against abortion. Maybe not so much, methods of birth control, but definitely abortion because of the scriptures that goes to show just how sacred life is and such. So, yeah, moving on here. Another thing I wanted to touch up on that was has been in the back of my mind for some time now, is a few years back. It was somewhere in Texas. They were doing like a competition of who can draw the best Muhammad, and that event was under attack. And I just think that's kind of strange for anyone to do that, or for anyone to attack anything really. But for something as innocent as that, just drawing what a lot of people perceive as a god, I suppose, is kind of silly. Now I know within the Quran, in their doctrine, there is scripture that indicates that he is not to be attempted to be portrayed in any way. But we've also got to consider that the best part, I think, about this country is that believe it or not, we're actually the only country in the world to the fullest extent that has freedom of speech. And not even Canada has it. Or Australia or any of the other countries that you think might have free speech, they actually don't. And so to the fullest, that's why I think we're probably because of that, that's the main reason why I think we live in the best country in the world, is because if you cannot share thoughts and ideas or anything that's on your mind amongst your peers or anyone else, then that's restrictive towards advancing towards anything, whether it be science or technology or finding other things that might be out there or new things in our universe and such. It's it's a big deal. Free speech is a big deal, and I think a lot of us, include I even take advantage of the fact that we do have free speech, but and we never appreciate the we should, and we had Veterans Day recently. That what I think is probably the most important holiday out of all the holidays, because if we didn't support and appreciate our military, then all the other holidays wouldn't exist, or they wouldn't at least exist in the way we know them today. I don't believe so. So, alrighty, and just to let everyone know out there, the lines are still open. The phone number again is 937-660-8483. I know I'm kind of jumping around in topics here, but I just want to kind of get everyone's thoughts going and encourage people to call in and talk about whatever might be on their mind, because anything that's on your mind is fair game for Blake News and such. And there's one other thing I want to talk about here. We're 30 minutes into the show. Ideally, I don't want the show to last too terribly long. I know we've all got busy schedules, and we can only listen to so much, and we've only got so many thoughts that maybe we want to broadcast to everyone that's watching and listening. So I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere around, maybe 40 to 45 minutes. Ideally, I feel like, around 7 o'clock, people are winding down anyway after work or what have you, and they're really going to have a chance to call into Blake News or type to Blake News. Speaking of which, I do need to check to make sure there isn't anyone that has asked a question within any of our chats, be it YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. You can get the YouTube link for Blake News at Blake News, or rather at facebook.com/Blake News. Be sure to like the Blake News page and click on the YouTube link. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so that way you're notified whenever we go live. Although it is rather easy to remember, because we will be going live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, it's fun stuff. So, should it come down to it, I know I have it set up, currently I have it set up to where we can only take one call at a time. But if we do get to a point to where calls are backing up, I'll set it up to where we have multiple lines. Well, it's just one line for now, so that's why I just have to block things off whenever we are in the process of a call so as to not be interrupted. All right, and let's do a rundown of the chats real quick. I don't even know if I have those up right now. Sorry about that. If you're trying to ask something and I haven't seen your question or comment yet, we will try to get around to it. Oh, and the reason why I keep looking over here and right here, and well, right here's the camera, of course, but I've got a monitor here and another monitor here, so this is just to make sure everything's running smoothly and such. Alrighty. One segment that we're actually going to start doing next week, something to really get you thinking, and maybe be careful, because I'm going to have a segment next week called Fact or Florida, because as a lot of us may know, a lot of crazy people do a lot of crazy things in Florida in particular for some reason. And so what I'm going to do next week is I'm going to say, okay, this happened and it's really crazy, but also this happened and it's really crazy. One of them won't be true, or both of them will be true. So it'll be up to you guys to maybe guess and figure out which one is the case. So it's not just a 50-50 chance. It is a 1 in 3 chance of being right on that and such. Alrighty. All right, and again, we do have time for one more call. Yeah, we should have time for one more call. Again, the number is 937-660-8483. We've had some really good callers tonight so far, really good conversation and topics that we've been talking about. Everything from contraception to abortion to the recent polls we voted on with the voting and the drug abuse and such. So with the really good points brought up with the drugs and cost expenses, we'll have to look into that. I'll have to look into that. You know what? Next week I'll bring up those numbers, maybe bring up the numbers and costs associated with how much it costs to keep someone in jail, how much it costs to rehabilitate someone, how much it costs to use any given dosage given of Narcan to someone. Those will be definitely really interesting stats to look into and such. Sorry. Hold on a second here. I'm actually pretty surprised that no one's called in and trolled yet, because being that and I may be wrong in saying this, but this may possibly be the only live broadcast in which is unedited and uncensored. You can say whatever you want. Now, I know there have been different people and shows out there that have been shut down because they say what they want, and these platforms like YouTube shut these people down because they don't like what they're talking about. They don't like what they're saying. And so that's fine that they remove these people from their platform, because within their business, they aren't necessarily required to hold the same standard to everyone because it's their own business. But it just goes to show how a lot of the major tech companies of our day is not in support of free speech, despite the fact that that's hugely what we're founded on, and that's a huge reason why these tech companies were even able to flourish in such a way they did. So that's definitely something to think about as well. Now, as far as if I were to ever get shut down, there is a streaming platform that I have heard of that is 100% uncensored that I know other people have gone to. I know, for example, when InfoWars was taken down from YouTube and Facebook and Spotify and pretty much everything, they reverted to some other video streaming service. So if it ever comes down to it, I'll just go to that as well, because I support free speech, and I think anyone who with sense to them should as well. Anyone who lives in this country should be happy to know that they can say whatever they want, so long as your free speech does not impede anyone else's rights and whatnot. So also, at some point, I would like to go out on the street, and this will probably be later on down the road. But I want to go out to like any like a large public place, maybe a campus or something like that, and just set up a little table and have conversations with people similar to what we're doing now, just not in a call fashion, face to face. Some people are more comfortable being face to face compared to being on the phone or typing or what have you. So that might lead for some good content as well. Alrighty. Okay, and also just for future reference, the phone number for the show to call in live and everything, it does not expire, so this will be the Blake News phone number until I mention otherwise. And that phone number is 937-660-8483. Next broadcast, I should have that up on the screen. I'll keep it up on the screen so long as we're not in a call. And yeah, it'll be just like tonight was. It'll be a good time. It'll be good stuff and everything. Oh, and by the way, even if you're not able to tune in to Blake News Tuesdays at 7 p.m., you're still able to watch the any broadcast on YouTube. This is recorded, so I'll be posting any Blake News broadcast to YouTube. So even if you do miss it, or you got work or whatever, 7 p.m. Tuesdays, you can definitely still tune in, check it out, and yeah, Awesome. Alrighty, so yeah, it is 40 after the hour. I think I'll go ahead and wrap things up. Going once, going twice for any last minute callers. 937-660-8483. Good show tonight, and good substance and topics to talk about. Hopefully, we have some more good action broadcasts in the future, and that should be it. So remember, folks, it's not fake news. It's Blake News. Have a good evening, everyone.